Sounds great. Does anybody here have a Wikipedia account already? That's totally fine if not, just, okay, great. Yeah, so when you do make an account, you'll have to wait 3 days before you can make any substantial edits, just to prevent any vandalism. So I structured my talk today and made some slides that I can post onto the Slack channel so that you can go back and look at them as a reference if you're interested. But even if you make an account right now, you won't be able to make any edits. It's also the witching hour for my cat, so this should be very interesting. Okay, you would think I would know how to share screen by now.
So I just made you the co-host, so hopefully that should have permissions.
My apologies. Okay. Bear with me, everyone. Okay, we will just. Okay. And can you see it? Okay, great. I had a dual screen setup. It's just not going to work today. Okay. So thanks everybody for coming. Oh, Delara just joined. Thanks, Delara. So today I'm just going to go over the basics of Wikipedia editing and why I think it's important, and it's also a lot of fun. And it's also a good chance to practice science communication in a really low stress environment. So how I got started in Wikipedia editing. So I'm a part of the National Science Policy Network, or the NSPN, and they sponsor wiki scientists to learn how to edit Wikipedia. And so I was a part of a 6-week-long course editing content on Wikipedia in preparation for the 2020 general election. And so it was a 6-week-long course, just learning the basics and essentials how to do that. And so I'm actually certified in Wikipedia editing. So why edit Wikipedia? It's all volunteer-based editing, and I don't know if you guys are much like me, but I carry my phone around lab, and constantly looking up things, and Wikipedia is the first place that I go to look at something. And just a couple of years ago, I started, listening to their donation emails where they're asking for money, and it kind of struck me like, well, who's writing all of this? And it can be you very easily. So it's also a really nice chance to learn how to communicate without bias, which is something that we are taught and we learn as scientists, but implementing it on a more frequent scale than an academic paper, I think, is really beneficial. You can reach a large audience. I'm going to show you some statistics about how many people look at certain pages, which I think is kind of overwhelming. And also it's really fun. So there are some users, like there's some guy who's been editing Wikipedia, like every single article he'll go through and make sure it's like the correct use of there, or there. And like his page, you can go look at all of his statistics about how many pages he's gone through and like edited. So I don't know, there's all sorts of like weird, quirky things about Wikipedia, and it's fun. But why in particular should you edit Wikipedia? We are experts in our fields. Sometimes I know it doesn't feel like that, but we are. We're also trained to communicate facts. And if any, particularly the last 4 years have shown us that it's really essential to know how to communicate facts clearly. There's a lot of diverse perspectives from, just in our lab in general. We have a lot of people representing multiple different cultures, and having those people edit Wikipedia, it's fantastic. And also if you speak multiple languages, translating science-based articles from English to other languages has another huge potential impact for change. So another thing that really motivates me to edit Wikipedia is the gender bias in the content on Wikipedia. And so of the articles about people, only 705,000 of them are about a female person, whereas over 3 million of them are about males. And if you break that down by articles in different languages, 18.8% of English Wikipedia content pages are about female people versus 81% about male. And also that same gender disparity happens with people who contribute to Wikipedia and who want to edit. So this is a little bit old, I think this is from 2016, but 9% of editors are women. And Wikipedia has really pushed to expand that. And their goal was like 25% female participation in editors by 2015. And I don't know what the updated statistics are on that, but I think they're still far behind. But Wikipedia is it's the 7th most visited website. And like the future of it depends on being able to recruit diverse perspectives and factual editors. And so I think the people in my lab have probably seen me talk about this before, but this is kind of what really hooked me about editing Wikipedia and my initial experiences in my in that course I took where we edited content for general elections. And so initially, I just was looking at different pages to contribute to because I don't have a ton of policy-based knowledge, but I was very interested in improving things. And so I found this page on, it's one of the ballot initiatives for the 2020 California, just ballot for the general election. And they had a really nice base page with all of their ballot measures on there. And this is just one of them. But it is a state-sponsored stem cell research. And so I think it was 2004 where they created the California Institute of Regenerative Medicine. And so it's like state-sponsored. And all of this background information here initially was about embryonic stem cells. And if anybody here knows anything about biology and biological engineering, the only place or stem cells come from other places besides embryonic tissue. And so I went through and edited this information to remove, mention of embryonic, because that can have like a particular political connotation, a partisan connotation. And so that's just a really nice example of something that I felt I was confident in changing and qualified to do. And if you can see the statistics here, so I edited it in early September, and then this is from September through December, over 13,000 people, or 13,000 times that page was open and read. So I, in preparation of this, I looked at my last academic article that I published, and it's been read 12 times on Mendeley. So just in comparison for the sort of impact that you can have on this kind of scale. So another thing that I noticed initially was, so there's different wiki projects, and I'll tell you about those as we go through. But there's a wiki project for women scientists. And in this wiki project, there's just a list. It's like over 100 names long of women scientists who don't have their own Wikipedia page. And so I thought I would start there and try and make a page dedicated to each one of these female scientists. And I just clicked on one, and it was like a weird catch-22 of not being able to find any information about these people without a without a wiki page about them. I don't know anything about them. So it is difficult to create new pages. And also if it's, a marginalized group, if there's not enough resources and citations out there on the internet, then how do you write a page about them? So it is kind of like this weird catch-22, but something that's very interesting, I think. So feel free to stop me if you have any questions either, but now I'm gonna try and go into how to edit a little bit. But how to find an article to edit, I'm gonna, when we go back onto the live Wikipedia, I'll show you how to find wiki projects. But each wiki project has this chart on it. And the quality of the articles are ranked. So these are like the best, so it's like top featured articles, A class, good, and then BC, start, and stub. And anything that's classified as a start or stub article is one that really needs attention. And you can see, like here's a priority of them as well. And so, there's a lot of low priority articles that are start or stub class, but there are some like medium ones here where still the majority of that is start or stub class. So they need a lot of help and a lot of edits. And you can see that like these pink and purple colors, like they're not even visible on this scale. So most articles on Wikipedia need attention. And so something as I transitioned from the, like the political content for the general election into more science-based articles, a place that I feel qualified to start is just editing this base page about fibrosis, because that's something that I study. And so this is just like the intersection of that page, where I think they define fibrosis as fibrotic scarring. So it's like defining the word with the word. And I think they call out scar tissue a couple times in here. And so there's just a lot of room for improvement. I think that I could make this more succinct and more clear. And so that's what I'm going to start on, is just working on this page, and then also calling out the different organs and like working in more detail there. So that's kind of my plan for like the next month. I want to try and improve this article on that. And this was just very interesting too, is like the statistics looking at this page. So this is like number of page views versus like the time. And so from February 2020 to March 2020, it jumped from 21,000 page views in that month to almost 60,000. And in the past year, almost 300,000 page views have occurred on this page, which makes sense. And I think it's only going to get worse. So, just having this content out there that people are reading, I think is important. So how do you tell if an article is good or not? So it should have a clear, succinct intro. It should have very clean formatting, very neutral wording, because that's a really important part of Wikipedia, that it's not partisan or anything. It's just very factual based information. It should have equal attention to all aspects. So it's not like very heavy on top and then kind of, trails off. A perfect article or a very good article would have weight throughout the entire article. It has very well cited with secondary sources. So that's a difference from academic writing, where you try and focus on primary literature. Here you want to mostly focus on secondary literature. So looking at those review articles that have consensus is key. And also another thing to consider is like, is there a paywall behind that article that you're citing or not? And generally, because it's, it's a free encyclopedia, you should have one source per sentence. If your sentence isn't communicating a fact, does it need to be there? I don't know. Things to identify in articles that have room for improvement. The lead section is unclear. It's not clear what this article is supposed to communicate. You can look at the sources and see if they are good sources or not. I have a subscript on my wiki account that will highlight sources for me that are suspect. And in a lot of political pages, Twitter is used as a source, which is not super reputable. So and so another thing is to avoid text that includes value statements. So like, this is the best or the most, those sorts of phrases. Okay, so just getting into your first edits. So I don't think any of you will be able to do this today, but I will post the slides so you can go and try later if you're interested. But when you look at a general Wikipedia page, you'll see, and if you want to like start playing on the side too, if there's something that interests you and you want to start looking at that Wikipedia page, but there's the article and the talk page that's available to everyone. And then also the read, edit, and view history. So step one would be to click on this edit tab. You can make your changes here with the text tools up here. And that's just like formatting an email, and I'll do a live edit at the end of these slides. And then with every single edit that you do, you want to publish the changes with your edit summary. And we can go over that in detail too. But so every time you write a new sentence or you change a citation or a punctuation, you'll just want to go ahead and publish that. And we'll keep the live version up on Wikipedia for everyone to see. So there's not huge technical errors. Some other things of importance. So this little pencil icon here will switch you between visual editor and source code. And so the visual editor is just what we're seeing here now is where you want to do your editing, because if you go into source code, it's just chaos. You do have to do a few of the edits in there, but I would recommend staying away from that. If you want to add a particular page to your watch list, so I get email alerts about all the pages that I contribute to. So anytime someone goes on and makes an edit, I'm just curious to see what they did. And so I'll get an email alert about that. And then also look into the talk and history pages for each article that you're thinking about editing. So the talk page is where editors can talk behind the scenes about what sort of edits that they're doing. And then the view history just keeps a log of every single published change on that article. So you can't break Wikipedia, which is really nice. Makes me feel comfortable editing, but because it keeps a record of every single edit that's ever been made. And it's very easy to revert changes. So with each Wikipedia account, you have something called a sandbox, and that's where you can sort of play around and edit articles that aren't live. It's not technically private, but it's really tricky to find someone's sandbox, and I don't know why anybody would, but when you are making your account, that is something to consider as well, is make it anonymous if you want, just to protect yourself. So don't share my account. But so the sandbox is a place where you can either draft a brand new article if you want to start from bottom up, just writing it, and then you can publish and move it into the live wiki space. Or what I think I'm going to do for the fibrosis page is copy over large bits into my sandbox to sort of edit and play around with the formatting. And then when I'm ready, I'll just copy that back into the live page. So if you want to make a new sandbox, so if you want to have a different page for each article that you want to work on, it's really easy. You just go to your current sandbox, click on the hyperlink up at the top, add a new backsplash and the name of your new box, and then press enter and click create. And so I'm going to publish these slides. So if this becomes relevant to you, you can come back here and look at this later. And if you want to move your sandbox and publish it as a live page, you would right here, and when it's ready, then you can move it over, name it, and publish it live. But you just want to make sure that there's no other page remotely titled for the thing that you just wrote. Something to consider is that you don't want to spend lots of time editing in your sandbox. You want to try and publish it as quickly as possible, just because you might spend all your time editing something and then someone might swoop in and publish it before you if it's like a hot topic item. That did happen to me I was making a Colorado general election 2020 page. And I was like nervous to publish it and had it in my sandbox for a couple of weeks. By the time I had it ready to move, someone had already done it. So it's just something to keep in mind. So the rules of editing on Wikipedia, you're always supposed to assume good faith. If someone comes in and changes your page, just be polite and avoid personal attacks on the talk page. And if someone comes and asks questions about the edit that you made, it's really welcoming to newcomers. So don't feel intimidated if you're not sure how to make edits. People are generally really nice. And I think after like my 100th edit, I had people coming to my user page, like offering advice and to help. And, if you ever need help, just like ping me kind of thing. Also, you're supposed to seek dispute resolution as needed. So one thing that you can get flagged for in Wikipedia is like having an edit war back and forth. So if I make a comment, someone, comes and like reverts my changes, and if I revert it right away without having a discussion in the talk page about why the changes were made, you can get flagged, and then an admin will have to come and like reinstate your account. So it's just kind of to prevent bickering, I think. Some other things about writing in Wikipedia. So you don't publish any original research. It's all consensus or secondary sources. You should always have a neutral point of view. It should be very verifiable. So it should have plenty of sources that you would be able to cite. If you want to make a new page and can only find like 1 or 2 sources, it may not be notifiable enough for its own page. And like I said before, consensus is key. And along that same line, so in academic articles, especially in the discussion, you have, you can speculate a lot in the discussion, but so like, because A equals B and B equals C, A may lead to C, but you never want to use that sort of logic in writing Wikipedia. You want to have every single sentence have well sourced. Editing guidelines. So like I showed earlier, we always want to add the edit summary with every edit. So you want to publish that. Again, publish changes often to avoid issues, and be bold because Wikipedia cannot be broken. It can be reverted very easily. Just a few words of caution before you jump into this. It can be really hard to edit good articles, ones that are classified as top articles. And if you do have something to add, or if you want to edit it for whatever reason, my suggestion is to start a discussion in the talk page with the main editors on that page. You can see the statistics about who spent the most time and who has the most edits on that page. And so you can go and ask them. Ultimately, they can't tell you no, but it's just a polite place to start. If you copy from another page, whether it's content or if it's just template formatting, you'll want to do that. So that's the next point. So you'll want to put that in your edit summary. So if you've copied a large amount of text over, you would just say in the edit summary where it came from, because you are responsible for your own copyrights in Wikipedia. So just to cover yourself, say where that content came from. You can only copy and paste from the edit tab, which I'll show you again in live Wikipedia. And hot button topics are generally protected. So if you were to go to the page on, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter or something and try and edit there, you would probably be, it's probably blocked, and we would not be able to edit that as just junior editors, but it's like an admin status. There's also on some pages protections on medical pages, because a lot of people use Wikipedia for medical advice and to diagnose themselves. And so you want to make sure that that information is absolutely correct. If you want to add images or figures or graphs into your text, that's for lesson 2. So just let me know and I can help you with that. And I just included some good resources here as well to share on the slides. Basically everything I went over, you can find here at Wikipedia Introduction. An example of a really good article is one about Ada Lovelace. Wiki projects, I'm going to walk you through that and how you can see all the different types of wiki projects and ones that you may be interested in contributing to. I'm going to show you some of the things that I have on my wiki account with different subscripts that highlight, sources that need updating and whatnot. And here's another source on correctly citing in Wikipedia. So I have a Google form if any of you are interested in participating in just like a monthly Wikipedia editing. I think if you just want to, reach out to me individually or fill out my Google spreadsheet if you are interested. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I think I have the word right. How do they determine importance? Is it just page views or it's more complicated than that?
Yeah, so just regarding the
you had like a table of I don't remember if importance. Yeah, this one.
Yeah,
okay,
so this is all editor bias as well. So like if you edit an article a bunch, you can move it from like up to a C class or B class, depending if it has reaches certain criteria for these different labels. And then, you know, the other contributors on your page may agree or disagree and then move it back down, or then you can have a discussion about it in the talk page kind of thing. But it is all user-based rather than like AI determined.
Okay, gotcha.
Mhm. Okay. So I'm going to show you just some live Wikipedia. And there's something, oh, thanks for sharing that in the chat. If anybody's interested, you can go fill out that spreadsheet there, looking for accountability buddies to update pages. Okay. Can you all see my screen? Hopefully it's not too small. But this is what Wikipedia would look like if any of you were to log in, maybe. So here I just pulled up the page on fibrosis again. So you can go over to this talk page and see what people and editors and contributors are talking about. So you can see that this article is a part of Wiki Project Medicine. So if I click on that, it has a whole bunch of different articles and people who are involved in updating pages with respect to Wiki Medicine. So to go back to fibrosis, sorry. So the first comment here on this page is, can someone please translate this into layman's terms? And so I think that's kind of what referring to that intro section that I kind of talked about in the slides. So there's a lot of space to do work here. So if we wanted to edit it, we would go over here and click on this edit page, but I'm not logged in at the moment. Yeah, and then it takes us to the visual source. So I just wanted to show you this because this is what you would be logging into. But this is my account. So I have several subscripts installed that will immediately tell me the article quality rating. So this fibrosis page is rated a C. And it's had, 18,000 page views in the last 30 days. And if I click on this, it'll show me how many people have logged in the past, that's the past month, daily, how many views it's gotten. And so I just was comparing some interesting, statistics and looking at what sort of pages get the most attention, I guess. So on this page, if I wanted to edit, I would go over to this edit tab. And then you can write anything you want in here. This is what I was talking about earlier with visual editing versus source code. So if we switch over to source code, so if you want to go through and edit the page in this format, to each their own, but I do not recommend that. So there's, all sorts of controls here, just like, you would see in an email, and then you would publish the change there. If you go to view history, you can see that I made just a few edits just the other day. And this is the little source edit summary that I attached to it. So I'll show you that in my sandbox, how to do that. And as the quality of the article improves, this one is predictive. So this is just, Wikipedia telling me as the article is getting more citations and information on there that this will go to green. Any questions so far? Okay, so this is my sandbox. So it's up here. You can, this is my account. You'll get some alerts if anything from that you have edited has been changed or somebody has commented on your user page. And this will take you to your, we'll go there later. But you can reach your sandbox up here at the top of the page. And anything that you've put on your watch list by highlighting this blue star, you can find up there as well. So just to show you a we'll make our first edit in our Wikipedia sandbox. So instead of being in the read tab, I am on the edit tab.
So Megan, sorry to interrupt, but I just want to say that, if we signed up for an account now, it seems like you can edit the sandbox straight away.
Perfect.
So I don't know whether people want to follow along and do that.
Yeah, if you want to do that, that'd be great. So you can edit in your sandbox, and then I'm going to add a citation, and you could, copy and paste a link into here, add a manual citation or reuse. So we'll just cite another Wikipedia page. Let's see if this will work. Yep, so we'll just cited our own page there. And there are a few bots that come through and like clean up your formatting. And, if the period is on the wrong side of the citation, I'm always guilty of that. So I get a robot that comes through on my account and fixes that for me sometimes. Yeah, so any questions so far? That's, it's pretty easy to follow. And then now that I've made this first change, I'm going to go ahead and publish it. And so this is the edit summary. So just succinct but descriptive what you changed, so that somebody who is looking at it, on a live Wikipedia page can look in at it and see what you did. And then we'll publish it. And there it is. So it's super, super easy and a lot of fun, I think. Yeah, and then so you can look at your history of all the changes that you've done. And this is just like a real Wikipedia page, but practice. So I'm not sure. I think you guys all have Sandbox up at the top of your account. And so this is just your original Sandbox. And then I think it's, yeah. So to find the other sandboxes that you make with new names, you can always go to your contributions page and see all of the changes that you have made and go through and find your sandbox. Or I have this other subscript installed called subpages, and it keeps all of my sandboxes down here at the bottom.
So can other people see your sandbox?
So I don't know how to find other people's sandboxes, which theoretically, I think if you just typed this in, you'd be able to get here. But I have shared it on purpose before with my, with the hyperlink, and then people can contribute and edit the same sandbox. If you're making a brand new article, and then move it when you guys are ready. So if you want to collaborate on different pages, because it's not private, but it's hard to find. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Okay, let's see if I have any other goodies to share. So the subscript that I have installed, which shows you like the page statistics, I think is like the coolest part about Wikipedia and tracking who's looking at your page. But if you don't have that, you can just go to any page and go to this left-hand side here. I just found it. There's page information. Okay, there it is. And this will have a different version of that same data that I just showed you, but you can see just kind of basic information like number of page watchers, so who has it on their watch list, so 112 people do. Number of redirects, this is important if you're trying to get a page Googleable, is what I was trying to do for the general election materials that I was doing. So I would go into the pages that I was creating and have more links direct to my page, because the more links that it has, the easier it is for people to find. So if it's just something like fibrosis, where, if someone Googles fibrosis, I'm pretty sure Wikipedia is going to come up fairly to the top too. But and also the longer a page is alive and, on Wikipedia, the more easily it'll be detectable. And then again, it has that data about how many page views it's had in the past 30 days. But because I have a certain subscript, mine shows it right at the top of the page. So that's something I can show you guys how to do if you're interested, and as we progress. So this is an example of like a higher quality page. So this is a B class. And if we go into the talk page, it's quite apparent that this one has a little bit more protections than just the fibrosis page that I'm working on. So it's got like community sanctions on it, and the Wikipedia rules, because I'm sure this one has a lot more hot topic discussion on this talk page. But yeah, this one might actually be protected, so I don't know if we can edit it. But yeah, so just some basic information about who is accessing these kind of articles and information. So each of you will have like your own user page. And if you go to the talk page, this is where people can come in. So this person, whose name is Barely, just noticed that I was making a lot of edits and offered to help if I ever have any questions. So there's some, people out there who are willing to help you. And also someone gave me some bubble tea for working hard on Wikipedia. So some cool stuff. And I think I shared this. Yeah, so this is just a resource about if you want to install different subscripts to highlight different, different things that will highlight features of an article. Any questions? So I'm just interested if each of you has just like something that comes to mind about your area of expertise that you think you would have the qualifications to go edit. And if you are willing, just go to that page right now, if you can think of any science word, and see if you could make any edits just off the bat. If, are the citations super out of date? Like I know if I go to the biomaterials page, I think the citations stopped being updated after like 2012, but it is no longer 2012. So there is room for improvement there. Or there was one that I was working on earlier, like antibacterial soap, which you wouldn't think is like a super influential page, but it had a surprising number of views. So I don't know if anybody wants to talk about their example that they're looking at right now, or put it in the chat and I can pull it up too. But if you just want to explore for a few minutes and let me know what you think.
So actually, Megan, I don't know whether you mentioned this earlier, but how do you look for like stop pages and things like that?
That's an excellent point. So I'll go ahead and share again. So you can just, are you seeing my desktop? Great. So if you just go onto Wikipedia and search wiki projects, and then I think, where is it? So let's see if we just click on here. Yeah, so this is all of the articles on Wikipedia that are considered a start class that you could edit if you had the desire to. But we'll go to, let's see if this works. Yeah, so I'll send you guys a link to, I think it's in my slides actually, like where to find wiki projects, because that's somewhere else, and then it will link you to a whole list of wiki projects. But anytime you go to like the main page for a wiki project, it should have that chart in there. So if we go to like the start class high importance and click on it, it'll tell us all of the pages that are high priority but considered start class. So if we go and look at one of them, so it's pretty short. Like the intro is very minimal. It does have a picture, which is nice. And I think this is probably better than most actually, because it does have quite a few of these citations. Yeah. So I guess we can just go see another one for an example. Oh, I guess that's a picture as well. So it's just fun to kind of play around and see if you have anything to contribute to these. And I'll try and find that. Actually, I have it on my talk, so I'll just copy it. And I'll put it in the chat as well.
Is there a way to see the class on an article you're reading? I may just be missing it.
So it might be over on like the page information on the left-hand side. I don't know if it will tell you. Let's go to my incognito browser. I don't think it does actually. Yeah, I don't see it. So that just must be the subscript I have installed that will highlight that. But so if you go to Wikipedia, /wiki projects, and then contents to finding a project. So there's a directory of wiki projects that is automatically curated. So if you just click on that, then you can kind of look at all of the wiki projects by category. So there's quite a few in science technology. The one I feel most comfortable with is biology wiki projects. And then you can kind of just scroll through here and see which category you most identify with. So if we just click on like wiki project biology, and then this is their page, so they each look a little bit different. So this one's not quite as active as the women scientist one. And it just seems to have a list of all the users. And this is just one way to find articles that you're interested in editing, but I often find just as good of resources or ones to edit just by looking at words that I'm comfortable with in my field. So with the fibrosis, or if I look at, bioengineering or something, I read those pages and it's like, okay, well, I have a lot to say here. Does anybody have an article that they want me to pull up?
I was looking at the hydrogel one.
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of know hydrogels, and it's apparently been classed as like a starter one, and like nobody looks at it.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's lacking somewhat.
In the past month, it's gotten 13,000 page views.
Okay.
It's still some. But yeah, this one is pretty minimal as well.
I was also
citations, but
yeah, I was looking at most of the citations. I think will probably be like behind like pay barriers and stuff, and I feel like there's more books and like general things that could be used for hydrogels as well. Yeah. I wonder if there's like another page that's like gels or something that could
that
see
is
how they like connect and overlap maybe in some way.
Yeah. And so like my script is highlighting this because it doesn't recognize it, but that's just a DOI. So that's something of interest as well. But if you're interested in installing any of those scripts, I'll share the slides later. I have so many pages open right now, it's chaos. But yeah, and then it will just pull it all that information up here for you. Any other questions? Or anything that surprised you in learning this about Wikipedia?
I didn't know it was so easy to edit.
Right?
I thought it was people who like sat on the internet for hours who went through pages editing. It's been an eye opener to how easy it is on certain pages, I suppose.
Yeah. And, you know, it doesn't have to be like a complete overhaul of a page. It's just if you can go in and make that content easier to read, add a better citation, like that's still improving the quality of that article. But that is, I've been reading a lot about why women are not editors and why they're not, well, they're not represented in content in Wikipedia because that's just, you know, a systemic problem, finding enough sources. But women often feel that it's going to be more difficult. They're not qualified to make edits. And I'm here to tell you that we are. So.
The chemistry wiki project also looks very formal. They have goals and an overview. I'm down a rabbit hole of
There's just so much that goes on behind the scene too. Like you just type in a page and see it and you're like, oh, okay. But when you start really digging, it can get really interesting.
Yeah, I've been on loads of Wikipedia pages, you know, always just trying to find stuff, and I have never clicked on the other tabs.
Right? I didn't even know they were there.
Yeah,
when I
it's
first
always
started.
just a background thing.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious to know, you know, if we wanted to start making our first edits, like what is a good approach here? So for example, I'm looking right now at the Anabina page, because I can share that in the chat if you want. Because I do some work with cyanobacteria. And you know, and there isn't a whole lot of information on here. So let's say I wanted to add something. What is the best way to start? Like, should I look up one of the, you know, like a review paper and try to summarize things that they found, or like what would you suggest?
Yeah, so that's kind of where I am with my fibrosis page as well, because I want to make it better, but I don't really know where to start. And so if you can find maybe like a slightly better known scientific topic and look at that page as a reference, like what weight did they put on different aspects, and kind of translate that to this page as well. So if you wanted to add, you know, like there's probably more information than like how do these things fix nitrogen. So if you wanted to add like another like subsection and something that you think is important, but yeah, like a review page or a couple of review papers that talk about the same thing is probably worth putting in here. Or if you know, have something to add. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that those papers are you know, free for all. If it's still behind a paywall, it's still going to be better than just not having that information on here at all. So kind of just use your best judgment. But that's where I would start. Yeah, just trying to find a good example about content and then applying that to what you have to say.
I was just looking at the medicine wiki projects, and there are 28,000 articles, but there are only 700 editors, which I find kind of wild. Like, I don't think they're obviously all editing the 28,000 articles, but it's kind of crazy to me how few people are perhaps having a say in these articles,
right?
Which is
yeah, that was something that I meant to talk about more earlier, but just like when I was writing that stuff about stem cells and trying to give a background, like the information that you leave out is just as important as the information that you share. And so if you have a bunch of old retired white males just editing these pages, then that's the sort of filter you're going to be reading through. Yeah, so actually, Gian, reading like the intro to that page that you shared, like there are no citations in that top part. So just by,
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah, so if you just, if you're just wanting to start and get your feet wet a little bit, just going through this and deleting anything that doesn't have a reference or finding a reference to support that and adding those citations in is a really good way to get comfortable. Because as soon as you start editing this, I'm sure people will, let's see, full page statistics. Like these people who have put the most time into it will probably come and look at your edits and maybe just not say anything, or maybe they'll go onto your talk page and like support you, or have contention about something that you said. But if you cited it, then that's the way to go. So I think we're almost at time, but I hope that I have shared with you why this is interesting and fun. And if anybody is interested in joining up with me, we can have, a soul warming beverage of choice and just work on updating some pages, because it's also something that you can very quantifiably put on your CV or your resume. Like, I've edited this page, and since my edits, like, I have reached 300,000 people or page views. I guess you don't know if maybe someone's just logging on every day to read it, but and it's just a good practice to communicate as well.
So I'm just going to share that link to Megan's spreadsheet if anybody wants to sign up.
And I'll share these slides that I made as well, just to help you with your first edits as you make your accounts. And we can go from there.
Cool.
I think all of you have my information. So if you have any questions about more specific edits or some more nitty gritties, just feel free to contact me.
All right. Well, I guess if that's it, then let's thank Megan. Thanks so much for the seminar today. I actually found it really interesting, and I definitely will be signing up for at least one session of the editing group.
Great. Great.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah. Thank you all for your time today. And thanks, Gian, for setting up the seminar series.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone, for coming by. And don't forget, we are having a little social at 5 o'clock at Scott Covenant Park if anybody wants to come by. Hope to see you all there.
See you there. Thanks, Megan.
All right. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.